Hey everybody, it is Thursday evening, and with that, the start of NFL Week 8. And as I do every week, I'm coming at you with the weekly notable matchups video, specifically the top 5 defensive matchups going into Week 8. So whether you play season long or just DFS, if you are looking for which offenses and which players are in the best defensive matchups going into this weekend, you've come to the right spot. Hey, welcome back to No Huddle Fantasy Sports and the Week 8 Notable Matchups video here on YouTube. But more importantly, thank you as always for finding this channel and taking the time to click on this video. If you're new here or simply haven't done so already, please take a quick second to subscribe to this channel and give it a thumbs up, especially if it's helping you along in season long and DFS. Something as simple as subscribing to the channel and giving this video a like goes a long way in not only showing me that you guys are benefiting and appreciating these videos, but it also helps support me, support the channel by continuing to help it grow. With that said, you're here for one reason, and that's the Week 8 notable matchups. And if you're new here, all these videos really do in a quick manner are covering which defenses give up the most amount of fantasy points, the top 5 defenses specifically, split out by position. It's important to first mention, however, that this shouldn't be the only stat you hang your hat on. In fact, there's not really one stat out there that I would use as a sole stat to determine lineups, both in season long and DFS. This isn't the end-all stat. You shouldn't end at this video, take this information, and then go build lineups. But it is a great starting point for your weekly research. Each and every week, this is where I start. I look at matchups, which teams are playing which teams. Specifically, which defenses I typically like to target, the weaker defenses, are in spots versus players I have in season long. And if we're talking DFS, where can I attack? And so that's all we're really doing here in this video, narrowed down to the top 5. For those of you that are looking for a little bit more information, or maybe all information, I do publish individual defenses versus position spreadsheets. I will link those in the description below. It's a free document. Feel free to use it. I update it weekly. And it is all now based on 2019 data only. So if you're really looking for which defenses are allowing the most points to quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, or tight ends, I have that all covered in this video and in the spreadsheets link below. And before we really jump into it, one last thing I promise here. I do want to mention one last public service announcement, really. I mentioned already, I am so thankful, I'm so grateful for where this channel has come so far. It's only 7-8 weeks in. It's a young channel, but it continues to grow week after week, and I am super thankful for that. So I've planned this for a couple of weeks now, but as soon as we hit 100 subscribers, that number 100, I'm going to do some sort of giveaway. It's not going to be just a cash giveaway like a lot of people do. I want it to be unique to this channel, which is fantasy football, fantasy sports in general. I think it's either going to be DraftKings or FanDuel. I'm going to work something out where you guys have the potential to enter a contest, win a lot more money than you could just through a normal giveaway. So stay tuned to that. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, like these videos. Give me some comments below on if you have any ideas of a cool giveaway. But in general, when we hit 100 subscribers, that's the number, I will then do a giveaway, and I'm pretty pumped for that. All right, 3.5 minutes there wasted on all of that stuff, the intro. Now we're back into Week 8 here. We're focusing on matchup data. It's important, as always, to quickly see if we have any notes from the previous week, Week 7 here. I know this slide says Week 6 defensive notes, but we're actually looking at Week 7. I've already put out or made this video, so just screw it. It's Week 7, not Week 6. But Cincinnati, first thing I have listed here, 216 rushing yards given up last week, 4.9 yards per carry. Cincinnati just cannot defend the run, a great team to attack with running backs. Houston, 321 passing yards given up, 4 touchdowns through the air. Over the last 3 weeks, we're now talking about nearly 1,000 yards through the air and 10 total touchdowns. So Houston continues to be a team you can attack through the air. New England, just absolutely, their defense is just insane. Stay away from them in terms of fantasy football players against. I mean, even if you have some elite players, they're just like Le'Veon Bell. It's just tough playing against them. They had 4 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, and a safety against the Jets last week. It's just astronomical defensive numbers they're putting up. I think the last stat I saw is that their defense has scored more points than the opponents they've faced, the offenses they face. So that's just an insane number. They're also 3-1 as a record if they did not have an offense. That's how many points they've scored. So absolutely insane defense. Stay away from them, at least right now. Arizona, they looked a little bit better last week. They added Patrick Peterson. He clearly had an impact on their secondary. They were able to. I know they were playing the Giants, who necessarily aren't the best offense in the world, but they did look much better compared to previous weeks. Finally, the trades that we talked about last week, Baltimore and Los Angeles Rams added some depth to their secondary. Quick glance, both teams improved. Baltimore looked much better. I think Peters immediately had a pick six, which is huge. And the Rams looked much better with Ramsey. So some quick notes there, some things to focus on, taking away from week 7. All right, now jumping into the meat of this video, matchup data. First off, quarterbacks, as always, the top 5 defensive matchups for quarterbacks right now. Atlanta, number 1, followed by Miami, Oakland, Arizona, and Cincinnati. Atlanta giving up over 25 points on DraftKings, 24 points on FanDuel to the quarterback position week in and week out on average. They face off against Seattle and Wilson this week. He's a great quarterback in a great spot, obviously. Miami facing off on Monday night, so not necessarily for DFS purposes because of main slates, but Monday night versus the Steelers and Rudolph. He's in a great spot against a weak Miami team. We then have Oakland giving up the 3rd most amount of points to the quarterback position on average each week, facing off against Deshaun Watson. So again, another elite quarterback in a great spot facing Oakland. Arizona's defense this week faces New Orleans in Bridgewater. I mentioned they were a little bit better last week, but in general, still a pretty weak defense, number 4 overall to the quarterback position. Bridgewater in a good spot. And finally here, Cincinnati. My note on Cincinnati is they've been crushed a couple weeks in a row by running quarterbacks, specifically Lamar Jackson, and then a little bit by Kyler Murray. So their numbers might be inflated and not necessarily reflect the ability to pass against them. Although they're not a great defense, just keep that in mind. But they're right now ranked as the 5th easiest matchup for quarterbacks, facing off against the Rams and Jared Goff in a great spot. We then move on to the running back position. Top 5 matchups, top 5 easiest teams for a running back going into week 8. Cincinnati, Detroit, Miami, New York Jets, and Green Bay. Cincinnati basically tops this list week in and week out. I love targeting them both in season long and DFS. But you're talking about 34 plus points on DraftKings, just an insane amount. FanDuel 29 plus nearly 30 points on FanDuel each and every week. They face Todd Gurley, which that's a confusing situation in their backfield. But great spot for the Rams, great spot for Gurley on the ground. Detroit, another great matchup facing off against an elite running back in the Giants in Barkley. So he's in a great spot versus a weak defense. Miami, another team that they're just bad all around, but giving up a lot of points to running backs each and every week. Monday night versus James Conner. The New York Jets, surprisingly on this list. I thought they had a good defensive front, maybe not, but they're giving up nearly 30 points on DraftKings, 25 plus on FanDuel, facing off against Leonard Fournette and all that volume he loves to get with that Jacksonville offense. Green Bay finally rounding out this list, facing off against Kansas City. You have McCoy, you have Williams. I don't know how that's split up right now, a little bit more probably favored towards McCoy, but they're giving up a lot of points on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Doesn't matter, PPR or half PPR, they're giving up a lot of points. So there's your top 5 matchups, easiest matchups for running backs going into week 8. Wide receivers. First one on the list here, easiest matchup in the NFL right now for wide receivers is Philadelphia. Specifically, I talk about them a lot. Outside receivers are just demolishing their secondary. I think they have backups of backups in their secondary right now. A lot of injuries, just a bad secondary. Easily one of the best teams to target with wide receivers. In any case, 45 plus points on DraftKings each and every week on average. FanDuel, 38 plus points per week on average. Not the greatest set of receivers, but they're facing off against the Bills this week. So you have John Brown and Beasley and anyone else, I guess, that's on that team. Next up, a team that's starting to rise here a little bit. They started off the season strong, but it was a little bit of a fluke. We have Tampa Bay and their inability to stop anything through the air. 44 plus on DraftKings, 36 plus on FanDuel, facing off against Tennessee, which is just not the greatest thing in the world. We have Davis, Brown, Humphreys. A couple of receivers there might be attractive, whether you're in season long or DFS. Houston, a team that's getting beat up through the air also. You're talking about Oakland as a matchup in their weak receivers. The only one probably the most attractive of that group would be Williams. Atlanta, a team that's getting beat through the air week in, week out. Number 4 easiest matchup for wide receivers. Talking about Seattle, we already talked about how good of a spot Wilson was in. Well, subsequently, Atlanta is weak against wide receivers. So you're talking about Lockett and Metcalf in great spots against Seattle. I'm sorry, for Seattle against Atlanta this week. And finally, flipping around here, we talked about Houston in a great spot. While on a similar token, the Oakland receivers are in a great spot. Houston has trouble stopping the pass. They are the 5th easiest matchup, giving up the 5th most amount of points to wide receivers on average on both DraftKings and FanDuel. You're talking about an elite receiver in Hopkins, but you also have Fuller and Still, some good secondary receivers for that team. So Houston receivers in a good spot. And finally here, the tight end position. Matchup data for tight ends is a little bit difficult because their volume isn't as much as running backs and receivers and quarterbacks. But we're starting to see as we progress through the season, we're more than a third of the way through the season, teams start to show their stripes here in terms of weaknesses versus the tight end. Arizona's on this list every week now. If you watch them with your eye, you can see that they just can't stop tight ends. Giving up 23 plus points on DraftKings, which is nearly 5 points more than the second place team. So Arizona giving up volume in terms of targets and catches to tight ends and also touchdowns. FanDuel 19 plus points on average. 2 tight ends for Arizona. They face New Orleans this week in Cook, so you might want to pay attention to him as a low flyer. Tampa Bay on this list facing Delaney Walker, he's older but a solid tight end as the number 2 easiest matchup. Indianapolis is on this list each and every week. They faced Font in Denver, so I don't really know about that matchup too much, but you have them as the number 3 in terms of data. Pittsburgh on Monday night facing off against a very weak Miami team. So Gesicki, I believe, if I'm not butchering that name right. I'm not going to roster him, but he's in a great spot if you want to take a flyer on somebody. Pitt has been, as a Pittsburgh fan myself, we do struggle against, especially elite tight ends. We struggle against inside receivers and tight ends every week. Seattle facing off against probably my favorite guy on this list, Hooper for Atlanta. Seattle has struggled most of the year in terms of giving up points to tight ends. It's a fact here. We have the data to show it. So Austin Hooper for Atlanta in a good spot. And that wraps up the video. I don't think I missed anything there. Hopefully for you guys, this video was quick and painless. These videos are not meant to be long. They're just meant to be a tool, giving you a little bit of data here, top 5 most important matchups to look at for the week. If you guys are enjoying these videos, of course, give it a like up. If they're helping you, give this video a like, a thumbs up, not a like up, same thing, whatever. But more importantly, share this video and pay attention. I mentioned already when I hit 100 subscribers, which we are super close to that number right now, I will be doing a giveaway. A 100 subscriber random giveaway is a great chance to win something free. And we're talking about something that could be substantial depending on how it plays out. But of course, I'm only going to be doing that giveaway to subscribers. So if you haven't done so already, subscribe to this video, help share it, get it out there, get us to 100 so I can do that giveaway as soon as possible. And finally, the last thing I started last week, you can see here in the resources down below in the comment section or right above the comment section in the descriptions, I've linked up all of the cheat sheets. So I've only given you in this video, and we've only talked about the top 5 positional matchups. But if you want 1 through, 32, if you want all the teams ranked, updated weekly, they're posted down below in a link. It's free. There's no strings attached. You don't have to give an email or do anything like that. The sheets include both PPR for DraftKings and half-point PPR for FanDuel, or if you're doing season long, it should help you there too. Again, just click the link below in the description. It was a comment. It was a lot of comments, actually, a collection of comments that suggested I go beyond the top 5. So that's what those spreadsheets are for. I don't have time. I don't think you have time to listen to me talk about every single team ranked. So that's a tool. It's free for you guys down below. And lastly, without wasting any more time here, thank you for taking the time to not only listen to this video, but if you've listened to any of my other videos, left me a comment, like these videos, all of that, I really do appreciate it. I can't believe how fast this channel continues to grow. It's really, really awesome. It's a passion of mine, and I am so thankful to have you guys along for the ride. So, thank you guys again. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget about the cheat sheets located in the links below. And good luck this week. Enjoy Thursday Night Football.